Hello guys, this is your friend and we are back with a new fanfic. Which is what if Naruto was trained by Kaguya after being neglected by his family part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic then please press the like button and subscribe to my channel for more fanfic like this. And now let's start the fanfic. Kushina Uzumaki watched her daughter practicing with shurikens. Kushina was a very beautiful woman. She had a slender but feminine build, fair skin and violet eyes. Her most concerning feature was a thick head of flaming red hair that she had passed down to her daughter Natsumi. Natsumi's bright blue eyes fixed on the target. She had slipped one of the two shurikens in each of her hands into throwing position. The razor-sharp shuriken flicked with Natsumi's hands sailed the short distance to the training dummy. One of the points penetrated the center. "Mommy! Daddy!" the 6-year-old girl shouted, bouncing up and down on her feet. Did you see what I did? Yes, that was really great. Kushina smiled. She bent down and kissed her little girl on the forehead. Natsumi smiled. She then felt a gentle hand on top of her head. She looked up and saw the smiling face of her father Minato Namikaze. Her smile got even bigger. "I'm proud of you, my little princess," Minato said, smiling brightly as he ruffled Natsumi's hair. Minato was a tall man. He had fair skin and spiky blonde hair. He has bright blue eyes the same as his daughter Natsumi. "Trust me, you'll be a great shinobi like your dad in no time," he said to his daughter. "Dad, my dream is to become the greatest Hokage. One day, I'm gonna surpass you and all previous Hokage." Natsumi pumped his fist in the air smiling brightly. A large grin appeared on Kushina's face. She turned as she pointed a finger at her husband. "See, Minato. She's gonna be like her mommy." Kushina gently put a hand on Natsumi's daughter and then she knelt at her side. "To be the first female Hokage was my dream. The dream that your father stole away from me." She shot a glare at her husband. Minato chuckled nervously. "She still scares me even though it's been so many years. But I'm sure, you'll achieve that dream for me." Kushina smiled while looking at her daughter. "Natsumi Uzumaki, the 5th Hokage has a nice ring to it, don't you think?" Kushina wrapped her arms around her daughter's small frame and hugged her. Minato smiled at the scene and joined the three-way hug between his family members. Smiling, both parents held their precocious daughter close. Big teary violent eyes watched the scene as it unfolded before the clear innocence eyes stained with tears. Naruto Uzumaki, twin brother of Natsumi, was a carbon copy of their father with the exception of some features. Tears slipped down his cheeks and he looked away. Sometimes when his parents were so attentive to his twin sister they would just forget about him. He had been hoping this day would be the day they would finally acknowledge his existence, but all he ever wanted was their parents' acknowledgement, their approval, their acceptance. What's so special about her? The blonde boy thought. Naruto absolutely resented his twin. She had gotten everything handed to her on a silver platter. He, on the other hand, had worked very to get every small thing. If it was enough, Natsumi was everyone's favorite. They called her the hero of the hidden leaf. How did she become hero? Naruto had no idea. As far back as he could remember, she hadn't done any heroic deed. He also had nicknames. They called him the son of the 4th Hokage and Hero's brother. Naruto clenched his fist as he absolutely hated those titles. He didn't want to live in the shadow of his twin and even more famous parents. Naruto. Naruto. Naruto's musing cut short when he heard Minato call his name. "Naruto, come here." "Yes," Naruto replied as he approached his family. "Naruto, I want you to fight with your sister," Minato said. Naruto nodded his head as he saw a good opportunity to show his parents that he was worthy of their time and love. "Good." Minato turned to his daughter. "Now Natsumi, you're going to fight with him, but do not forget to take it easy on him. It's not a real battle, just a spar and your brother isn't strong as you." Naruto clenched his fist in anger. He wanted to scream at father that it was their fault as they never trained him. "I'll show them I'm not weak, then maybe they'll love me like they do Natsumi." Kushina had a shocked look on her face. She couldn't believe what her husband had suggested. We haven't started his training yet. She shook her head and quickly brushed her worry aside. What am I thinking? It's a simple spar between two children. Nothing will go wrong. Naruto settled down into the fighting stance that he had been learning from books. Natsumi took her own fighting stance that her parents had taught her. As soon as Minato gave a signal, Naruto made the first move. Naruto ran toward Natsumi to punch her, but Natsumi simply moved away from his way and slammed him against the ground. Naruto quickly pushed himself on all fours and kicked his left leg behind him. A huff told him that he had hit the target. Naruto jumped to his feet and noticed that his sister had already recovered from his attack. Natsumi attacked her brother, throwing some fast punches that Naruto either blocked or dodged. She never stopped. Naruto blocked his sister's some punches and sent 3 back and a knee to her gut that forced her to her knees. Using this opportunity, he kicked her as hard as he could, sending her rolling a few meters from her previous spot. Naruto's face split into a wide smile as he stared up at Natsumi's fallen form. I did it. I finally beat her. It was the first step to get close to his parents. Naruto turned toward his parents for their approval and the smile left his face. Minato and Kushina weren't looking at him but behind him. He turned his attention toward Natsumi and froze. His sister was blazing with an evil red chakra. Naruto felt his body shivering in fear as he could sense the power that Natsumi possessed. It was vast and filled with bloodlust. Natsumi roared like a wild animal and disappeared. Naruto then felt a sharp pain in the jaw. Before he could defend himself, Natsumi slashed him on his chest with her razor-sharp claws, leaving a deep wound there. She slashed once again with her other hand on his face. Naruto cried in pain as he felt burning sensation in areas where wounds were. His entire body felt drained. He barely had the strength to defend. However, the fight was far from over. Minato and Kushina didn't realize what their daughter was planning until it was too late to stop. Natsumi had already crossed the distance and was gathering a large amount of corrupted red chakra in her palm. She delivered a palm strike to her brother's head, which sent him flying backwards into a tree. Naruto barely had the strength to keep awake. All he could feel was a pain, especially from his chest as he laid on the blood-soaked ground. He was conscious, so he could hear his parents calling his sister's name. He saw some blurry images of his parents disappearing with his unconscious sister. Minato and Kushina had forgotten about him once again. He felt betrayed and that made the pain even worse. At last, I am not special. But I don't want to die. No, not like this. I don't want to die like a nobody, Naruto thought before darkness took over his eyes. Ooh. Minato and Kushina were in the hospital as they stood in the hallway. Medical ninja team was examining their children. That incident had really shaken up them, as they hadn't expected a simple spar between children would end up in the hospital. The sound of a click caught their attention. The door opened to reveal the head medic Nin. He walked out of the room and closed the door lightly behind him. Lord Hokage. The medic greeted his leader in respect. Are they all right? Minato asked, worry clearly visible on his face. Your daughter is safe. She has a small case of chakra exhaustion. She'll be back to full health in a few hours, the head medic Nin informed. After hearing those words, Minato and Kushina felt a huge weight lifted off their shoulder. Your son on the other hand. The man trailed off with a frown on his face, making both parents to concern about their son. What happened to him? Kushina asked with worry laced in her voice. Her hands were shaking a little. I'm not sure if he'll fully recover from it. The head medic's Nin took pause before looking at both parents. He has lost his so much blood, but that's not a big problem. Our major problem is the Nine Tails chakra. The corrupted chakra has done some serious damage to his important organs, especially his both eyes. They are damaged to beyond repair. His body is further shut down and entered a comatose state. I'm afraid there is nothing I can do. Forgive me, he said. The only medic of Lady Tsunade caliber can do something. I insist you call her. Lady Tsunade has the skill and knowledge to possibly heal your son completely. He left them standing there alone and went to check his other patients. When two snapped out of their daze, they rushed toward their son's room. Tears welled in their eyes when their eyes landed on Naruto. Their son had an oxygen mask on his nose and mouth to assist him in breathing. His entire chest was covered in bandages as well as his left arm, his both eyes, the left side of his face and down his neck slightly. His chest had a few wires attached to monitor his heart rate and his breathing. Bandages that warped around his chest and both eyes were soaked in blood, telling them the seriousness of his injuries. This is my fault. Kushina was openly crying. What kind of mother am I? I took my daughter to the hospital but left my son drowning in his own blood. Minato wasn't feeling much better than she was. He looked down at his feet in shame as he clenched his fist. I'm such a terrible father. How could I let something like this happen to my son? Ooh, how did this happen? A man wearing a boar mask asked his partner. His partner had bird mask on his face. Both men were from Anbu Black Ops, Special Assassination and Tactical Squad. They were dressed standard uniforms which for Konoha Anbu. There's been talk, and I'm not sure if it's true or not, but there's a lot of rumors going around about it. Bird paused. He looked around to make sure no one was in earshot. It was Natsumi, he said carefully, his voice barely above a whisper. She lost control over Fox's chakra and attacked her brother under its influence. But what about the seal? Boar asked, his mask successfully hiding his shocked expression. Maybe seal. Bird shook his head as if trying to shake out the silly thought. I don't know, I'm not a seal master. Bird looked straight at the blonde-haired boy they were guarding, through the small glass window built into the door. 2 weeks had passed and Hokage's son was still in critical condition. He said, he is a strong boy, let's hope he'll wake up soon. Boar nodded, agreeing with his partner. He just hoped the boy would wake up soon, healthy, not with some traumatic experience. Ooh, the night was unnaturally quiet. There was no voices or sounds, not even the normal rustlings, no bird, owl or barking dog. It seemed like, by godly, that all night animals were holding their breaths as if they waited for something to happen. The moon had risen higher, and was shining in at the uncurtained window, illuminating Naruto's hospital room with a silvery light. Moonlight and darkness alike bent and danced around the injured boy, surrounding him in a hazy metallic shimmer. And suddenly light changed. A stain began to spread over the face of the full moon, a stain like pooling blood. As it spread, the moonlight turned from white to red, the blood red of pain. The glow became brighter with each passing second and began to pulse before dying out altogether. After light came darkness. Dark shadows poured out of walls. It buzzed on the air and filled the room, expanding into every corner to block out the light. The darkness bubbled and rose up in flabby, half-formed shape which reached out with feeble hands. A pair of eyes burst open in the darkness and glowed, crackling energy spewing from their crystal form. F found you. The darkness changed its shape again as it twisted like ropes, stretched and wrapped around Naruto's body as a blanket. Swelling darkness seeped into his wound, flowing in his veins, stitching all wound together. Ooh. The same darkness emerged from a small black portal into a featureless glaring white world. The ground, sky, even the far-off horizon, all brought about an almost maddening snow glare effect. The world was empty, held no life signs, save for a small bubble of energy. The darkness changed its form once again as it twisted, taking a famine shape before turning into a beautiful woman. The woman possessed very delicate facial features, like extremely long, sweeping light-colored hair that touched the ground. Her featureless white eyes narrowed at the bubble as veins appeared near her temples. This chakra. The white space in front of her ripped like a sheet of paper. She stepped into the portal that led her near the bubble. She took a step forward and raised her right hand. When her dark nail touched the bubble, it burst apart and disintegrated to nothing but mere light particles. What? Naruto said. Naruto looked up at the woman with his blood-stained cheeks. She had two horns that came from the sides of her forehead, but he wasn't frightened by that. It was her chakra that frightened him. Her was vast. Compare with the vast sea-like chakra of her, the red chakra Natsumi had was nothing but a little pond water. The woman bent down, cupped Naruto's cheeks with her hand. What is your name? She asked, her tone voice quite emotionless. Naruto first was reluctant to answer her question, but decided to answer it. He didn't want to get her bad side. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, he said. Why are you crying? The woman asked. My parents, Naruto stated in a dejected tone, hiding his anger and sadness in them. They care more about my twin sister than me. To them, I'm nobody. They don't care about whether I live or die. He began to sob and started to tell her everything about his parents, his twin sister, and his parents' favoritism toward her. Even after hearing Naruto's sob story, the woman's face showed no emotion. She looked at the boy with her white eyes. After a long minute of silence, she spoke again. Tell me, what are you going to do now? I do not know, Naruto answered, as he wrapped his arms around his legs and buried his face in his knees. Maybe, I'll find peace here. I can help you if you want. Naruto jerked his head up at her. Why? He asked. He didn't know why this woman wanted to help him. There was nothing he could give her in return, and top of that he didn't even know her name. Why do want to help me? The expression on the woman's face continued to be unchanged. Because I'm your ancestor, she said. Naruto's eyes widened at hearing that she was his ancestor. A ancestor, but how? He asked. From her white eyes, he could tell that she had Byakugan. I don't mean to be rude, but neither my mother nor my father is related to the Hyuga clan. You've their Dujutsu. You're obviously related to them. I'm also Hyuga clan's ancestor and originator of their bloodline. Huh, I don't get it. I'm Kaguya Utsutsuki. I'm the progenitor of the Hyuga, Sanju, Uchiha and Uzumaki clan. I'm the mother of Hagoromo, she said. She then noticed a confused expression on his face. You may know him by his other name, the Sage of the Six Paths. The Sage of the Six Paths. You're the mother of the Sage of the Six Paths. Naruto nearly cried, quickly standing up on his feet. The shock and excitement were clearly visible on his face. The creator of ninjutsu and chakra. He had read about that man. The man was the god of all shinobi. Kaguya's face changed from emotionless to a face filled with anger and hatred. Boy, he is not a creator of chakra, she said, her voice harsh and cold. He and his brother were thieves, thieves of my chakra. Naruto gulped and nodded, as he didn't want to anger her more. She's scary. That foolish boy he gave my chakra to humans, Kaguya said. Her temper was already close to boiling point. The slit on her forehead opened, showing her third eye, scaring Naruto even further. The eye had red sclerae and irides, with a ripple pattern spreading over the eyeball in 9 tomo. The chakra belongs to me and mine alone, she finished. Naruto gathered some courage in his voice and asked, but why? Because chakra isn't for humans, Kaguya said, as she looked down at Naruto. Do you know how humans are using my chakra? To fight. To start a war, Naruto said. His tone of voice was too matured for his age. He looked into Kaguya's eyes. To cause destruction. Kaguya's dark lips curved into a smile, showing a positive emotion. Good. You can understand. We cannot let this happen to the world, my precious nursery. But what we can do? Naruto said. Entire world has chakra and it will live forever. Then we'll unite chakra in one. We'll take all chakra back, Kaguya suggested. Will you help me with that? How? Her statement had confused Naruto more. Is it even possible to collect all chakra? I'll tell you about it later. First, answer my question. Will you help me to bring peace in the world? Naruto hesitated, but it was the first time someone had given him attention, not to his sister. He didn't want to disappoint her. She was the first person who had acknowledged his existence. It felt really nice to him. He looked at Kaguya with his newfound determination. I will help you with my all power, he said. Good. Kaguya said. She placed her hand on his head. Naruto's body glowed for fleeting seconds before dying down. First, let me tell you history, the history of Utsutsuki clans and chakra. Naruto took a place on the non-existent floor and made himself comfortable to hear Kaguya. Kaguya started. Utsutsuki's greatest skill is their ability to use chakra. Naruto Uzumaki's body was resting on a hospital bed. No one else was in the room, so they weren't able to see black glow that was emitting from his body. The glow died down after a few seconds later. Slowly, Naruto's uninjured hand reached up and gently removed the oxygen mask. His nose wrinkled as the strong smell of medicine hit his nose, telling him that he was in the hospital. He disconnected all wires that attached to his body and sat up with his legs dangling over the side of the bed. He reached up and slowly pulled the medical tape, loosening the bandages over his eyes. Light stabbed his eyes, burning, painful. He closed his eyes immediately and slowly opened them again, letting them adapt to the light. Grabbing the edge of the bed, he stood up on his feet, hobbled toward the bathroom, almost falling on his way. Naruto stood in front of the mirror, unsure he really wanted to remove the bandages. He took a deep breath, reached up, and unfastened the end of one of the bandages that wound around his head. Slowly, carefully, he unwrapped the remaining bandages. When his body was cleared, he saw scars all over his face and body. To his surprise, all scars began to heal rapidly, the skin began to patch itself up. That's new, Naruto muttered silently to himself. His skin was completely smooth and clear. He splashed handfuls of water onto his face. When he looked at his reflection in the mirror, he was briefly shocked. His eyes, they were no longer violet. He had two different colored eyes, a purple right eye and a blood red left eyes. Both eyes had ripple patterns spread over eyeballs with no visible iris. Naruto was already familiar with the name. Rinnegan, he muttered. Naruto looked at his reflection, but it looked like something floated behind it, another face, not his own, deep inside the glass. You not just have a Rinnegan, you've Rhine Sharingan, Kaguya said. Her reflection had formed the corner of the mirror. Your left eye doesn't have any Tomo yet, but you'll receive them after gaining some experience. Mom, Naruto said, looking at Kaguya's reflection. After spending 6 months with Kaguya in an unknown place and knowing more about her, Naruto had started to call her mother. She was a better mother than Kushina. He asked, what happened to my old eyes? Your old eyes, they were damaged beyond repair, so my chakra replaced them with a new one. Thank you, mother. Naruto looked at the reflection of his dual dojutsu. Even though it was incomplete, he could still feel the great power coming from it. I haven't much chakra left, so listen carefully, my son, Kaguya said. I've sent a message to someone close to me. He is my will, so you can trust him. He'll assist you in your training as well as accomplish our goal. Will I see you again? He asked, afraid she would disappear forever. Yes, you will, she said, and her reflection faded away from the mirror. Naruto took a deep breath as he closed his eyes and cut off his chakra flow. A few seconds later his eyes opened again, showing his normal violet orbs. The Hokage Tower was among the largest edifices in Konoha, containing the chambers for the Hokage as well as meeting places for the council, abbey, and various other workers, all of whom reported to the Hokage as the final authority over the ninja of the village. The fire daimyo might have been the lord of the land, but the Hokage commanded its troops. The fourth Hokage, Minato Namikaze, sat in his office, signing for the 100th time that day. It had been 6 months since that incident. Those months had been a living nightmare for him and his family as they waited in desperate hope for a breakthrough in Naruto's condition. Minato's eyes landed on the only picture he had his entire family on it. In it, he was holding his wife while their hands were on one of Natsume's both shoulders. Naruto was off to the side with a sad look on his face. He looked away as that picture reminded him of mistakes he had made with his family. His mistakes had been mostly affecting Naruto more than anyone else in the family, and he had so blind to see it. Minato remembered why he did that. It was all because of the prophecy. Believing his daughter was the child of prophecy, he had chosen Natsumi over Naruto in hopes of ensuring the safety of the world. By doing that, he pushed his only son to side. He felt ashamed for what he had done. Then something unprecedented happened. The glass of picture frame cracked vertically, separating Naruto from the rest of the family. It was an ominous sign which worried him greatly. Minato. A voice called out urgently. Minato turned the head toward the direction the voice came from. There stood the one person he hadn't seen in a while, his sensei Jiraiya. Even after all these years, he could say his teacher hadn't changed much in an appearance-wise. He was still a tall man with waist-length, spiky white hair that tied back into a ponytail, with two shoulder-length bangs that framed both sides of his face. He also had red lines that ran down from his eyes and wore a horned forehead protector with the kanji for oil, which denoted his affiliation with Mount Myoboku. Sensei, what are you doing here? Minato asked as he watched the man jump in through the window. Did you find Lady Tsunade? To find Tsunade, he had contacted his sensei. Jiraiya was a spymaster and a former teammate of Tsunade, so he was the only person who could possibly find her. Jiraiya shook the head negatively. I'm really sorry, Minato. Minato slammed his hands on the table and stood up. Then why are you wasting time here, sensei? Naruto. Jiraiya cut in. Minato, this is important. What is more important than finding Tsunade? Her godson Naruto needs her. Minato, just listen, Jiraiya said. He knew his student was upset and worried. The prophecy has changed. Minato felt a pang of pain in his chest. What does it say now? He asked, not really wanting to find out. Well, the Uzumaki mansion was a big mansion, not big as Uchiha or Hyuga, but still big enough for 4 people. It had a large compound which was comprised mostly of large training grounds and gardens. Kushina was sitting down on the couch in the living room. She was looking at the only picture she had her entire family together. It was the identical picture her husband had in his office. She still couldn't believe what they had done. She couldn't call herself a good mother. Hell, she couldn't even call herself a mother at all after what she had done. How could I have pushed one child away in the favor of the other? She took one last look at the family picture, but before she could leave, something happened. The glass of the picture frame cracked. She felt a slight pain in her chest. Kushina. Minato's voice called her name when he flashed into the living room. Natsumi was having tea with her friends who were chatting happily. Next to her sat the only other person whose family had blonde hair, Ino Yamanaka. On her other side sat her timid friend, a girl with pretty indigo hair color and lavender eyes, Hinata Hyuga. Natsumi thought about her brother. Naruto's bloodied face was embedded in her mind. She sometimes had nightmares about the same face calling her killer. She tried to forget and reached for her teacup. But when her finger touched it, the cup cracked before it shattered completely. A pain swelled up in her stomach at the same time and she fainted on the spot. The last she heard before losing her consciousness was her friends calling her name again and again. Inside Natsumi's seal, there was a gigantic cage as ominous shadows swirled in the darkness. A single red slitedi opened. A red-orange fox stepped forward in light, showing massive figure. The mighty fox had sensed a powerful chakra that seemed to belong an unknown entity. This chakra, it's more powerful than old man's. The monster fox rose to his feet. His eyes flashed and he let out his mighty roar. A flame-like red aura formed around his body. Heat vented out of him like a furnace. The red aura slammed into the cage bars over and over again, in an attempt to break it, but the seal blocked it effectively. Kushina sat next to her daughter's bed watching her rest. Minato stood next to her, his hand was on her shoulder. What's wrong with her? Kushina asked, worriedly, stroking her daughter's red hair. The seal seems to be working fine. Minato tapped his chin in a deep thought. I think the fox has tried to break the seal again, he said. They were so concerned about her. After hearing the new prophecy, they couldn't get it out of their head. What did it mean? How would it influence the future? At that moment, a dog-masked Anbu walked into the room. He had spiky white hair and wore standard Anbu armor. Sensei, he said. Yes, Kakashi, Minato said to his only living student. Sensei, your son, Kakashi said. He's woken up from a coma. A smile appeared on Minato's face and Kushina shed some tears. It was the first good news they'd heard in many months. The past month had been the worst and painful of their life. But they taught them the importance of the family and how bad some of their decision could affect their children. Thanks, Kakashi, Minato said. You can go now. Kakashi nodded and walked out of the room. Thank Goddess, he is awake, Kushina said, relieved to know her son was awake. I hope he'll forgive us, Minato said, as he realized they had something to take care of. They didn't know that they were already too late for asking forgiveness. A seed of revolution had been sown in Naruto's mind by Kaguya had already sprouted and was just blooming. It would take years to grow and flourish, but once it did, it would crack the very foundation that held the ninja world together. Minato sat behind his desk in the Hokage Tower trying to do his paperwork. The keyword was trying. He just placed his pen back down. Sighing in frustration, he sat back in his chair and rubbed his temples. He stared out the window of his office. The past 6 years, Minato did not want to think about it. Those years reminded him of his constant failure in everything. However, no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't stop these thoughts of flashing over and over in his mind. So many things had gone wrong during that period of time. Hyuga affair and Uchiha clan massacre were prime examples of it. Minato felt a pang of guilt in chest thinking about it. Hyuga Hazashi and all those innocent Uchiha clan members had paid a heavy price for his failures. Minato looked down at the photo that he had on his desk. His family photo. He picked it up and traced his fingers lightly over his son's picture. His son constantly reminded him that he failed to fulfill his job as a father. Naruto had become increasingly distant and cold to everyone, even toward his twin sister. As far as Minato remembered, Naruto used to be a sweet and bright child, something he and Kushina had failed to see at that time, but these days, he would hardly see a smile on son's face. His son had become a shadow of his old self. Minato had no one to blame but himself for it. His foolishness had caused his son so much pain in the past. Then there was his next child. Ever since the Nine-Tails chakra nearly caused her brother's death, Natsumi had developed a great fear of using Fox's chakra. Fearing for worse, she had refused to tap into the beast's chakra. All incidents had also created another problem that Minato didn't know how to resolve. Somehow the information about the incident had leaked in public, planting a seed of doubt into the Leaf citizens' mind and causing them to doubt of his words of Natsumi being their savior. The Leaf citizens hadn't shown any real open hostility toward his daughter, but Minato had seen a slight change in their behavior toward her. Minato's train of thought interrupted by a quiet knock on the door. Come in, he said. Minato saw the former Hokage Hiruzen Sarutobi, who was somewhere around 68 years old, walk in his office. The third Hokage was a light-skinned man of below-average stature with gray hair. Followed closely behind his preceder was his least favorite people, Homura Mitokado and Kaharu Udatane. They were around the same age as Hiruzen. Homura was gray hair, a bearded man with glasses and had a strong jawline of facial structure. Kaharu had gray hair. Her hair was pulled back in a twin bun locked by a traditional Japanese hairpin with 2 pearls dangling from the side. 2 of them were part of the Leaf's Elder Council. Hiruzen-sama and Honorable Elders, what can I do for you? Minato asked, showing some respect to the former Hokage and his ex-teammates. He gestured for them to take a seat. They gladly accepted his offer. Hiruzen pulled his pipe out of his sleeve and lit it with a quick application of fire chakra. Minato, he put it in his mouth and inhaled it, Before releasing a cloud of smoke from his mouth, we are here to discuss the upcoming graduation exam. Adjusting his glasses with his thumb, Homura said, as you already know, some students in today's graduation exam are special. Most of them are from famous clans. There are also the last Uchiha and your children, Koharu added. Your daughter is a Jinchuriki and your son. He is a young prodigy and a natural genius. He's all qualities to become a genin, but the reason he isn't a genin yet is Minato, Homura said, as he gave him a glare, showing he didn't like the decision of his leader. Your son would have been a great asset to Konoha military. Minato narrowed eyes at Homura. He was too young to become a genin at that time, Homura-san, he said in a harsh tone to prove his point. Do I remind you what happened to our last young prodigy? Homura flinched at the mention of Uchiha Itachi. Minato had another reason, which was different from he had told Homura. He still remembered that day over 4 years ago. Minato had flashed into the living room of the Uzumaki mansion using his most famous jutsu. Kushina-chan, are you ready? Kushina was wearing an expensive-looking kimono, silk green in color with brown stitching at the hems. On her delicate feet was a pair of silk slippers, a few inches high for extra height. Yes, she muttered. Minato looked at the beautiful face of his wife. He could clearly tell something was bothering her. What's wrong? It's about Naruto. Oh, he knew his son was a painful topic to his wife. He hasn't forgiven us yet, Minato-kun. Kushina's eyes looked his crystal blue eyes. Don't lose hope. I know he will forgive us, eventually. He put a hand on her shoulder to comfort her. Where is he now? I don't know. I haven't seen him since breakfast. A noise from upstairs caught couple's attention. Minato saw his daughter walking down the stairs. Natsumi was dressed in a traditional red kimono and pair of silk slippers. She stood ready to go to the festival. You looked beautiful, little princess. Ready to go to the festival? Minato asked cheerfully, trying to lighten the mood. Yes, Dad. I'm ready to take all prizes that I'll get after winning every game. Natsumi walked toward them. She then noticed that her brother wasn't there with her parents. Hey, where is Naruto-ni-chan? She asked, looking around to search her brother. Before Minato could open his mouth to answer her question, the front door opened and Naruto cautiously walked inside. His clothes were ragged up and had dirt spots on them. Being a leader of the village, Naruto could tell that his son had done some heavy training. Minato smiled. Naruto, get ready. We are going to the festival. Naruto raised his eyebrow. No thanks, he replied in his bored tone, and he began to walk upstairs towards his bedroom. Kushina was very stubborn, she refused to take no for an answer. She ran after her son. Minato followed shortly behind her. Naruto! Kushina shouted. Naruto stopped and turned back to see both his so-called parents. What do you want? He asked. Kushina flinched at the acidity in her son's voice. Why, Naruto? Why don't you want to come with us? We're a family. A family, you say? Naruto laughed. Since when we are family? He replied harshly before he walked into his bedroom and closed the door in front of their faces. Naruto. He hates us. Naruto's unkind words nearly brought tears to Kushina's eyes. Minato pulled her into a hug and consoled her as best as he could. He sighed. He hated to see her like this. Let's go. We've to go to attend the festival, he said. Kushina looked at her husband and asked, why? Because I'm a Hokage, it is my duty to attend public events. Kushina nodded. She didn't like it, but she was going to do this for sake of her husband and daughter. When they walked downstairs, they saw their daughter crying. Natsumi sobbed. It's my fault. He hates us because of me. She cried harder, bringing her knees to her chest and wrapping her arms around them. No doubt, she had heard everything. Kushina went to her and knelt down beside her daughter. Shoo, she hushed, using a hand to gently rub her upper back. It's not your fault, Natsumi. If it's anyone's fault, it's ours. She wiped off the tears from her face. She looked up at Minato and gave him a nod. Minato went forward and grabbed his wife and daughter's shoulders. He used his famous jutsu and flashed away with them. Ooh. Minato was watching all children who were enjoying themselves and playing the games that were part of the festival. He also noticed Natsumi's sour mood as she walked with them. He didn't blame her for that. Minato, Kushina. A familiar voice called. Minato and Kushina quickly turned around to see a familiar face of Hiruzen Sarutobi. Hiruzen-sama, Minato said. Hey, old man, Kushina greeted, causing Minato to sweat drop at her disrespectful behavior. Hiruzen smiled and walked toward them. After all these years, Kushina's behavior didn't bother him anymore. How are you two? We are all right, thank you for asking, Minato answered, smiling. In Naruto, Hiruzen had tried to find the boy, but he had failed to see the particular shade of blonde hair. Where is he? Minato noticed hearing their son's name. Kushina's mood had dropped again. He placed his hands on her shoulders to support her. He's home. He's not interested in the festival, he said. Why? Before Minato could say anything, he heard Ino's voice as she yelled his daughter's name out in fear. He quickly turned around. Natsumi was on the ground holding her stomach in pain. He rushed toward her with Kushina and Hiruzen following behind him. Kushina held her daughter tightly and called her name. Natsumi. Daddy, Grandpa, Natsumi weakly said. Her eyes blinking rapidly as she began to lose her consciousness. Rarrrrr, she growled in a deep voice before falling unconscious. Hiruzen was worried as he could feel a large amount of Fox's chakra leaking out from Natsumi. Sensei. Kakashi had landed in front his teacher. He was in his Anbu dress code. Our sensors have picked up some unknown chakra signatures. Where? Minato asked. His azure eyes hardened like steel, showing the reason he had become a leader. Near the Uzumaki mansion. What? Naruto. Kushina shouted, as she realized Naruto was alone in the home. Kakashi, take care of Natsumi, Minato ordered before turning toward the former Hokage and his wife. Let's go. Minato used the Flying Thunder God Jutsu and disappeared with Kushina and Hiruzen. Ooh. As soon as Minato, Hiruzen, and Kushina appeared outside the Uzumaki house with a yellow flash, they felt a large amount of dark chakra emanating from the inside. Naruto is in there. We need to get there quick. Kushina shouted, fearing for the safety of her son. Without wasting any time, they ran inside and went toward where they could sense the dark chakra. This chakra, it feels even more sinister than the nine tails, Minato thought. When they reached the source of the chakra, they saw a lot of blood over there. Just a few distances away, they found 4 bodies of unknown shinobis hanging from a big tree. The blood was seeping from where the black chains had stuck through their bodies, to the grassy ground below. Stone shinobi, what were they doing here? Hiruzen said, recognizing the symbol on masks. The big tree got the fourth's attention. That tree shouldn't be there. As far as he knew, on this part of the training ground had no tree. There was only one bloodline capable of growing full-grown trees in one day or in a few minutes. These days, only one person had that bloodline, but that person was out of the village for an important mission. The Hokage's eyes followed the chains back to their source and his eyes widened. Naruto stood there in the middle of the training grounds alone with the chains of unknown black metal protruding from his back. He yanked back the chains out of the dead bodies, making them disappear. The tree suddenly sprouted 2 branches covered in fur-like leaves. The branches wrapped around the bodies before they hit the ground. Wood release. He can use wood release, Hiruzen said as his eyes widened in surprise. Those were chakra chains. I didn't know Naruto's inherited my special chakra, did you? Kushina asked her husband. Minato had said nothing. He had been staring at Naruto's emotionless violet eyes. Minato could never forget his son's eyes. Those eyes had held no emotion in them. After that, he had denied Council's all attempts to let Naruto join early in the shinobi program. That incident had also led to question about Naruto's wood-release bloodline. Thankfully, Hiruzen had come with a theory. The Uzumaki clan had close ties with the Senju clan. Maybe, Because of this, Naruto could use the wood release like first Hokage Hashirama Senju. Keeping Naruto's wood release as an S-rank secret, they had released very small details about the stone incident in the public. It had contributed to raise Naruto's popularity among the Leaf's citizens. Minato, Hiruzen called patiently. Minato shook his head before he turned back to his visitors and asked, "Sorry, did you say something?" Hiruzen's sweat dropped and said, "You are truly Kakashi-sensei." Kaharu made a fake cough to catch their attention toward her before saying, "Well anyway, let's talk about team's arrangement." Ooh. Natsumi was sitting in the classroom of Shinobi Academy with her childhood friends. She had gotten her father's blue eyes but otherwise could have been a mini carbon copy of her mother. Same build, same skin tone, same long bright red hair with strands that framed both sides of her face. Her ninja gear also looked similar to her mother's old genin gear, a short-sleeved, tan kimono-like blouse with a dark embroidered border, held closed with a black obi, a dark skirt, and stockings that stopped at her thighs and brown sandals. To Natsumi's right side was her childhood friend, Hinata Hyuga, the heiress of the Hyuga clan. She had dark blue hair, fair skin, and customary white eyes of her clan that had a tinge of lavender. She was wearing a cream-colored hooded jacket with a fire symbol on the upper right and left sleeves and fur around the cuffs and hem, with navy blue pants. Like the rest of her clan, she possessed the renowned Byakugan. She was the shy girl in the Natsumi's little group. To Natsumi's left side was her another childhood friend, Ino Yamanaka from the Yamanaka clan in her fairly revealing purple clothing with small silver hoop earrings. She was a fair-skinned girl of average height with blue eyes. The most noticeable trait in her appearance was her long, blonde hair, which was in a high ponytail with bangs covering the right side of her face. There was Kiba Inuzuka from the Inuzuka clan with his nin dog, Akamaru, a tiny puppy with white fur. Like the rest of his clan, Kiba had messy brown hair, sharp black eyes with vertical slit-like pupils, pronounced canine teeth, and nails that can change into claws. He also had the distinct red fang markings of the Inuzuka clan on his cheeks. His attire consisted of dark grayish pants reaching to his calves and a gray, hooded fur-lined coat over an apparent plate of armor and fishnet undershirt. Next to Kiba was a boy with his head down, sleeping. He was Shikamaru Nara, heir of the Nara clan. He had quite long jet black hair tied in a spiky ponytail, narrow brown eyes. His attire was rather plain, consisting of a green-lined mesh t-shirt under a short-sleeved gray jacket with green edges, adorned on both the sleeves and the back with a circle with a line through it, brown pants, and blue sandals. Next to Shikamaru was a chubby boy who was eating a bag of chips. He was Shikamaru's best friend, Choji Akamichi from the Akamichi clan. He had spiky, brown hair, swirl marks on his cheeks, like the rest of his clan. He was quite husky, which was a necessity in his clan to perform their techniques. He was wearing black shorts, a long white scarf, a short-sleeved, green haori, over a white shirt with his clan's obligatory kanji for food on it, small, hoop earrings, and his legs and forearms were wrapped in bandages. Right behind them was a fair-skinned boy with dark, bushy, brown hair. His name was Shino Aburame. He was wearing dark sunglasses and a sea green jacket with a high, upturned collar. He was a fellow of the Hidden Leaf's Aburame clan, whose members used insects as weapons. Away from all students, sitting next to a window was a dark-haired boy, Sasuke Uchiha, the last loyal Uchiha of the Leaf. He was a fair-skinned boy who had onyx eyes and black chin-length hair. His hair was spiky in the back with bangs. His clothing consisted of the traditional Uchiha clothing, a blue, short-sleeved shirt with a high collar and the Uchiha crest on the back and white arm warmers. Looking at Sasuke's direction with heart in her large green eyes was Sakura Haruno. She was the bright pink-haired girl with fair skin and a large forehead. Her ninja gear was a sleeveless red kipao dress with white circular designs, with a zipper, tight dark green shorts. They all were most promising and talented students who had good chances to become shinobi of the Leaf. The whole class was comprised of about 30 students. Most of them were civilian children, and learning ninja arts was just fun or something their parent had forced them to do. The class was bustling with noises. All students were really excited. After all, it was graduation day. When two academy instructors walked swiftly into the noisy classroom, the entire class fell silent. They got in front of the class with their backs facing the blackboard. First academy instructor was Aruka Umino. He was a man of average height and build. He had brown hair that he kept in a ponytail, dark eyes, and a scar that ran across the bridge of his nose. Next to instructor was Mizuki Tuji. He had shoulder-length, white hair that had a slight hint of blue to it and green eyes. Both instructors were dressed in a standard the hidden leaf shinobi outfit complete with forehead protector, sandals, and flak jacket. Good morning, Aruka said. As all of you know, today is your graduation exam. He started his boring speech about ninja life. Ino leaned to the side and whispered, pissed. Natsumi. Natsumi turned to her and in a low tone, she replied, yes. Where is Naruto-kun? Just then, without any warning, the classroom's door flung open, catching everyone's attention there. A boy in a hooded shirt entered the classroom. He was fairly tall for his age, wearing red-black customized armor over a black high-collared shirt and black pants with matching sandals and fingerless gloves. He started to move toward his seat at the back of the class. Naruto, Aruka shouted, you can't wear the hood inside the classroom. Whatever, sensei, Naruto said, and he removed his hood, making most of the girls in the class blush. Naruto had the same violet-colored eyes like before, but his spiky blonde hair had gained a silver tint on it. His skin tone had also lightened in the 6 years. Kaguya's chakra had made sure that he didn't look like a clone of his father. Ignoring everyone, he took his seat and crossed his arms with a bored expression on his face. Naruto ni-chan. Natsumi looked at her brother. Her face dropped, her eyes sad. Even with all training she had done with her parents, she couldn't match up against her brother. He was a prodigy, smart and strong. He was a rare genius like their father. She had tried everything to improve her relationship with him, but nothing had worked against her brother's cold behavior toward her. Quote. As you all know, today is graduation exam. It will take place in the next room. Come in there when you hear your name being called, Aruka said, and he completed his speech. Aruka started the test to find the potential genin. One by one, he called the name. Naruto watched Shino leave the testing room with a headband that had a blue cloth. He watched as students entered and exited either with a headband or none. But most of them are going to fail in the next test, he thought. He had heard about a test that used to weed out non-capable genin. He thought were cut off when he heard Aruka called his name. Aruka shouted, Naruto ooze. He stopped in the middle of pronouncing the name, when he felt Naruto's cold stare. Naruto, it's your turn. Naruto stood up and started to walk toward the exam room. Good luck, Naruto-kun. Good luck, Naruto-kun, do your best. His many fangirls gave him their best wishes. Good luck, Naruto ni-chan, Natsumi said to her brother, who just ignored her as usual. Why does he always ignore you? Ino asked. It was one question she always had in her mind. Natsumi sighed. It's a long story and I don't want to talk about it. She looked at Naruto again as he got into the exam room. A few minutes later, Naruto came out of the exam room wearing his new leaf forehead protector around his left arm. Ignoring all congratulations he was getting from his fangirls, he sat back in his seat. Natsumi Uzumaki. Aruka shouted. It's your turn, Natsumi. Good luck, Ino said, smiling. Thanks, Natsumi said. She walked towards the exam room and stopped in front of the door. Determined to make her parents proud, she took a deep breath, then cleared her mind. She opened the door and went in. Outside the academy, many parents were seen chatting with each other, or their kids. Some of them were happy for their children's success while others were sad for their children's failure. Minato and Kushina were also there. Both of them were looking their children. Dad. Mom. They heard a familiar voice shouting. Their heads turned towards the direction of the voice and saw their daughter running towards them and getting her way through the crowd. I did it, Natsumi said. She showed them her forehead protector. I'm a ninja now, one step closer to being the first female Hokage. Yes, you did it, Minato said, ruffling her daughter's hair to annoy her. Natsumi slapped his hand away. Don't do that, I'm not a kid anymore, she said, shooting an annoyed look at her father. No matter how much you grow up, you will always be my little princess. Natsumi huffed and folded her arms across her chest in frustration. Kushina smiled. She bent down to her daughter's height and gave her hug. We are happy for you. Natsumi smiled. Wrapping her around her mother, she hugged back. Kushina released her daughter from the hug and slowly stood up. The smile never left her face. Her eyes fell upon Naruto. He was calmly walking away from the academy building with his hand in his pocket. He had his forehead protector tied around the upper part of his left arm. Naruto, she called out. She quickly caught up with him. I am really happy. Save your breath, Naruto said in a cold tone, cutting her off, because I don't care. He continued his way, overlooking the tear that fell from her eyes. Kushina, someday, he'll forgive us, Minato said, as he stood next to his wife. He pulled her into a one-armed hug, attempting to comfort her. Ooh. Naruto was standing on the top of Hashirama Senju's head carved into the stone, looking down on the hidden leaf village. The hooded cloak he was wearing over the ninja gear was blowing in the wind. His unique dojutsu was active. His Rinnegan eye hadn't changed much, but his left eyes had evolved. His Rinne Sharingan had gained 3 tomo in the first ring, they were spinning rapidly around the pupil. The hidden village of leaves is a beautiful village. Having very bright and warm weather, it's a great place to live to anyone. It's also one of the most powerful villages in existence, responsible for producing many of the greatest ninja in history like Hashirama Senju, Tobirama Senju, Hiruzen Sarutobi. It's painful for me to admit that Minato Namikaze is also one of them, he said. He crossed his arms as he looked up at the moon shining brightly in the night sky. But this village also has dark histories. It's also responsible for creating many deadliest missing ninja, don't you think? Yes. Madara Uchiha, Orochimaru, Tobi, and Itachi Uchiha were Leaf's ninja before becoming criminals, a voice answered his question. Naruto turned toward a strange mutated creature. The creature had a human-like shape and facial features, white skin, short green hair, a lone yellow eye, as well as unusually rounded teeth. You're right, White Zetsu, but the last one is the victim of one of the Leaf's darkest secret, he said. Aha, yes, Danzo and his root Anbu. So anyway, Naruto turned around and looked back at the Leaf village. Do you have any interesting news for me? Yes, Zetsu said in a slightly cheerful tone. It's about Academy instructor, Mizuki. Ooh, in the deep forest, Iruka and Mizuki were battling against each other, but as things stood, it seemed Mizuki would be the one to prevail. Give the scroll back, Mizuki. Iruka shouted. Mizuki only laughed and said, with this scroll, I will become invincible. Mizuki slashed Iruka's shoulder with a poison kunai. The poison was soon to start its effect on Iruka's body. He suddenly began feeling tired and dizzy and fell to the ground. With his blurry eyes, he looked up and saw Mizuki bring a kunai down to him to finish him. So this is it, this is how I'll die. Iruka closed his eyes and waited for the inevitable. He had a good life, and he was not afraid of death. The sound of kunai clang snapped him out of his own thoughts. He saw a hooded figure block the kunai and pushed the traitor away. An Anbu, thank God, Iruka thought. But he was proven wrong. Naruto, Mizuki said. Iruka looked up at the hooded figure. Even with blurry eyes, he could see there was a familiar silvery blonde hair sticking out from the hood. Naruto. What are you dining here? You. How dare you try to ruin my plan? Mizuki shouted. Whatever. Naruto snorted, putting his hands in pockets. Gritting his teeth, Mizuki dashed toward him with kunai in his hand. Naruto! Iruka shouted, worried for his student's safety. Naruto stood there doing nothing, only eyeing the traitor lazily. He yawned once more, hands still in his pockets. In the last moment, just as the kunai was about to connect to his chest, he simply sidestepped. He brought his knee up to the surprised Mizuki and slammed him right on his stomach, giving him a heavy blow. Before the man could recover, he brought his leg up and brought it down on his back, making the man kiss the ground. Is this all you can do? Naruto said. Weak. He gave Mizuki a hard kick, sending him skidding across the ground and slamming into a tree. Mizuki glared at the blonde-haired boy angrily. He tried to stand, but could not retain his balance. With one hand braced against the tree, he shakily stood up on his feet. I will show you my true power, boy! He cried. Naruto watched with a raised eyebrow as Mizuki took a vial from one of his vest pockets and brought it to his lips. He chugged it down in one gulp, shivering from the taste. The half-empty vial dropped onto the ground from Mizuki's hand as pain ripped at his inner throat and scoured down into his belly. It was agony beyond all reason. Mizuki grabbed his neck with his fingers as his throat began to burn. He tried to scream but no sound came. He tried to raise his feet and began to stumble. Mizuki dropped to his knees, screaming in pain. His ears lengthened and came to a point. His body grew taller, and orange fur with black strips grew quickly and covered his body. His teeth had also grown longer and had become razor sharp, especially his canines. Behold! Mizuki got up when the transformation finished, looking like a bipedal tiger. The ultimate gift from Orochimaru-sama. So what are you? A Wura-kitten? Naruto mocked him. Mizuki's anger had reached boiling point. Brat! You will tremble in fear at my strength. Mizuki vanished from the sight and reappeared in front of Naruto. He sliced the blonde across the stomach. The force of the attack sent Naruto flying backwards and against a tree. Ha ha ha! Mizuki began to laugh evilly but stopped when he saw instead of blood, a pinch black smoke leaking out from the cut. What? Naruto's body dissolved into black smoke. The smoke slithered toward the ex-academy instructor. Mizuki slashed his claw at the smoke but nothing happened. He looked at his hand. The skin on his fingers where he had touched the smoke had been badly burned. Mizuki watched as Naruto's upper body materialized from smoke more than 15 feet in front of him. He reached into his pouch, pulling out a pair of kunai. He threw the one at the boy. The kunai only met an empty air. The black smoke stretched toward Mizuki and out of that smoke leapt Naruto. His feet slammed into the traitor's back. He cried in pain as he stumbled forward. Naruto's feet touched the ground. He spun, crossed his arms, and dissolved again in the form of the black smoke. Anticipating the attack, Mizuki spun, cutting air. Naruto was there, his feet outstretched for kick, but again his kunai passed through the only smoke. He coughed and retched as it swarmed over him, burning his lungs and tasting foul on his tongue. Within the smoke, he heard Naruto's voice, echoing all around him. This is entertaining, isn't it? Mizuki gritted his canines in silent fury. Come out of that, boy, and show yourself. Don't hide in the dark. He roared. Sensei, we are ninjas. We hide the dark, and kill from the dark. Mizuki's eyes widened as Naruto's cold voice came from behind him. There was no time to scream. No time to move out of the way. A black chain with sharp tip burst through Mizuki's chest. Pain exploded, radiating out from his heart to every inch of his body. Goodbye, Sensei. Naruto could feel the man's life fade away. He jerked back the chakra chain, letting his former sensei's body fall to the ground. He turned toward his other sensei. Iruka was lying on the ground motionless. He went toward him and checked the pulse on his wrist. He's alive, but unconscious. I need to heal him. Can't have him die on me now. Too many explanations for later, Naruto said, mostly himself. He sighed and made a single shadow clone who went to copy the forbidden scroll of sealing. The real ones put a hand on Iruka's chest. A green glow emanated from the point of contact. He was using the manifestation of the chakra to diagnose the condition of the academy instructor. Judging from the way he frowned, it wasn't anything good. Ooh. Two Anbu jumped down to the ground and walked toward Aruka. One Anbu knelt down next to the academy instructor and she began to check his pulse, breathing and pupils. She had straight, purple hair reaching down to her waist. Her Anbu mask resembled a cat with 3 red stripes, 1 vertical stripe on the forehead and 2 horizontal stripes, 1 on each cheek. She then looked up at her partner and nodded her head. Her partner had an eagle's mask on his face that covered in green and red markings. He glanced at Mizuki. His body had returned to normal after his death. He went and knelt down beside the corpse. He could see something sharp had pierced in Mizuki's back between the shoulders and right through to his chest. He is dead. Eagle stood up. His eyes looked around for searching something. But where is the scroll of sealing? It's here, a voice said from behind him. Unsheathing his sword, Eagle quickly spun around to deal with danger. When he saw the 4th Hokage's son, shoulders sagging, he visibly relaxed and sighed in loud relief. This boy nearly gave me a heart attack, he thought as he sheathed his sword back. Eagle didn't want to admit it, but the blonde boy's sudden appearance behind him had caught him off guard. So, what happened here? He asked. Naruto handed the forbidden scroll of sealing to the Anbu and said, "That man was working for Orochimaru," he said, pointing his thumb at Mizuki's body. He stole the forbidden scroll of sealing and tried to kill a fellow leaf ninja. In our fight, he drank something from this, he threw the vial at Eagle, and turned himself into some kind of bipedal tiger monster. Eagle studied Naruto, searching for any lie in his statement. He looked into the vial. A small amount of liquid still left in it. He looked at the boy again. "Very well," he said, pocketing it for further investigation. "Good job. Did you heal Aruka?" Kat asked as she walked toward them. A black smoke began oozing off of Naruto's body. "Yes, I did," he said, looking at her. "You did a good job healing him. Thank you. But he still needs medical attention. I am not a healer, so I am very limited in healing technique," Naruto said. He was slowly dissolving into the pitch-black smoke. "Goodbye." He then puffed out of existence. "That boy reminds me of Itachi Uchiha," Eagle said. "He's emotionless and genius just likes him." Kat nodded. "Let's hope he doesn't snap out like Itachi and kill his own family." As a high-ranking Anbu officer, she knew most things that were happening within the village. She knew about the strained relationship between Hokage's family and their son. The boy hated his own family. She couldn't blame the boy. She would have done the same thing if her family had been responsible for sending her 6 months in the coma. Then he disappeared in the black smoke, Kat said as she finished her report on the events that had happened the previous night in front of the Hokage and his advisors. Minato felt more than just fatherly pride for his son's actions. "Thank you, Kat. You can go now," he said. Kat nodded and gave a bow before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Hiruzen puffed out smoke from his pipe. Genjutsu and medical ninjutsu, he said to himself. "Your son is definitely stronger than we thought, Minato. It seems he's been hiding his true skills," Koharu said, looking at the 4th Hokage. "Level-headed, intelligent and cunning," Homura said, who was clearly impressed the skill Naruto had shown. "He's a perfect example of a shinobi." "Yes," Minato said. "Now, what about the team arrangement? I think we should put both Naruto and Natsumi together on the same team," Hiruzen said. Homura looked at his old friend and nodded. "It's a great idea. This way, if Natsumi ever loses control of the Nine-Tails chakra, Naruto will be there to restrain her with his chakra chains and if it's possible then with his wood release," he said. Minato agreed with them. "Suppressing a tailed beast chakra is difficult, not impossible," he said. "But we have to assign a good instructor who can help Naruto to fully grab his wood release ability. And there is only one person who can do that," the 3rd Hokage said. "Tenzo," Koharu said. She was one of a few people who knew about him. Minato said, "I will speak with him. I'm sure he'll be happy to give Naruto his private lesson." Hiruzen pulled the pipe from his mouth and blew out a small puff of smoke. It's a very nice idea. It will keep his wood release power secret for now, he said. Anyway, let's start forming other teams first, Minato said as he gave a signal. A Chunin brought a stack of papers inside and put them on the desk. After giving a bow to his superiors, he left. Koharu picked up the first paper. The first team is Team 10. This team will work under Asuma Sarutobi. Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Choji Akamichi will be on this team. The next generation in the Ino Shika Cho trio, Hiruzen said, approving the choice. He released a cloud of smoke from his pipe. Homura adjusted his glasses and read the next paper. Team 9 is still active. He put that paper aside and picked up the next paper. Kiba Inuzuka, Hinata Hyuga, and Shino Aburame, they will become Team 8. Kurenai Yuhi will lead the team. This team can become a great tracking team with Hyuga clan's Byakugan, Aburame clan's bugs, and Inuzuka clan's dogs as well as their own heightened sense of smell, Minato said. We've some problem with Team 7, so keep it for later, Koharu said, putting Team 7's paper side. She took another paper. Now for Team 6. Far away from the Leaf Village, in a deep forest, Naruto was seating on a rock. Legs crossed, back straight, he was in a calm meditating position. The place around him was filled with wildlife and nature, there were plenty of trees and animals around. He made numerous hand seals. Wood release. Nativity of a world of trees. All around him, plants started to grow. Not small plants, but giant, tall, and beautiful trees whose roots shot out of the ground into the air, crushing and merging with old trees in the forest. As they branched out, they formed leaves and caves beneath their bases. One such root burst out of the ground beneath him, lifting him off the ground. Still not good, Naruto muttered himself and he went for another set of hand seals. Does anyone have a problem with arranged teams? Koharu asked. No one protested or said anything. Accepting no one had a problem, she picked up remaining paper. Now, there are just 4 students left. First 2 are your children, Minato. She took first 2 papers and placed them on one side of the desk. Another student is Sasuke Uchiha. She placed his paper next to Naruto and Natsume's papers. The final one is Sakura Haruno. She took the last paper in her hand, which was Sakura's paper, last in the line. What is in her report? Homura asked to know more about the girl. Hiruzen picked up Sakura's paper. She is among the top students in the class. Other than Naruto, she is the only student who has gotten full marks in all written tests, he said. She has also shown in great talent in chakra control. Naruto and Natsume must be on the same team, Koharu said. And only Kakashi can teach Sasuke about the Sharingan. We could always put Sakura on a different team, Homura suggested. No, that isn't necessary. I think I have a much better solution, Minato said suddenly, catching his advisor's attention. What's in your mind, Minato? Hiruzen asked. Put all of them on the Team 7, Minato said, shocking everyone. He quickly held his hand up, stopping Homura and Koharu from saying anything. This team is going to be our assault and frontline combat team. An assault and frontline combat team. Hiruzen repeated. Neither he nor his old teammates understood what Minato was trying to say. Being a Jinchuriki since the day of her birth as well as a descendant of the Uzumaki clan, Natsume alone possesses a massive amount of chakra. She can easily take a position of a powerhouse of the Team 7, Minato said. I know Sasuke hasn't activated his bloodline Sharingan yet, but after activating it, he can become a ninjutsu specialist of the team. As for Sakura, putting her on this team may not seem like a good idea, but with her natural talent in controlling chakra, she does have the capability to become a medical nin. We all know how a medical nin is helpful to a team. He paused to let the information to sink in. The last is my son Naruto. He has shown a natural talent in most of shinobi arts. He is equally smart and cunning. With those qualities, He's suitable for a position of brain of the team. If you put that way, then it'll be a great team, Hiruzen said. He had liked Minato's idea. Yes, but leading a team of fully trained ninja and leading a team of 4 freshly graduated genin is 2 separate things, Minato. Kakashi will also have to teach all of them. Can he handle it? Homura asked. I'm sorry, but I don't think this is going to work. Homura had no doubt Kakashi was one of the best ninja the Leaf had ever produced. But Kakashi was also one of the laziest people he'd ever known. Maybe, Kakashi can't handle this team on his own, but with the assistance of another Junin, this plan will work, Minato said. Koharu asked, You mean another Junin instructor? Hiruzen puffed once more and removed the pipe from his mouth. Who is on your mind? He asked Minato. Someone who can keep a tight leash on my students' bad habits. Ooh. Naruto was walking toward the classroom, his head held low, the hood draped over it. He took another bite of his apple. It was the day when the recently graduated students would be assigned to genin teams. He calmly strolled into class and threw away the remains of his apple in a dustbin that was at the corner of the room. He walked toward his desk. He looked around and spotted Shikamaru Nara sleeping in his seat. Without disturbing him, he walked toward his own seat. Sitting down in his seat, he crossed his arms over his chest, and closed his eyes, being decided to get some more rest. A loud screaming woke Naruto up from his sleep. The first thing he saw when he opened his eyes was Sasuke kissing a brown-haired boy from the class. Everyone in the classroom and Sasuke's fangirls were looking at the scene in front of them with wide eyes. I didn't know, Sasuke plays for the other team, Naruto thought. Take note, maintain a long, very long distance between us. Both boys jumped away from each other and began to spit out the taste of each other's lips. Unfortunately, for the brown-haired boy, Sasuke's fangirls did not take well to the fact that he stole their Sasuke-kun's first kiss from them. They proceeded to beat the poor boy to a bloody pulp for the next few minutes, which only ended because of the arrival of Iruka. All right, class, take a place. No one paid Iruka any mind, and continued their talking and playing. I said sit down. He roared using his demon big head jutsu, which was not technically a jutsu, but his job was done as all of them immediately took their seats. He cleared his throat and looked to his class. There wasn't any weakness in his voice, nor was he showing any signs of yesterday's injuries. Today. Iruka-sensei. Sakura interpreted, holding her hand up. Yes, Sakura. She stood up from her seat and asked, Where is Mizuki-sensei? Well, Iruka said. He and the Hokage had come up with an excuse to cover up the Mizuki death. He is on a long-term, top-secret mission and I can't tell you about it. Because if I tell you, I'll have to kill you. It was truly a lame excuse, but its job had done. It scared Sakura. At that point she nodded her head fearfully without asking any more question and took a place on her seat. Now class. He started one of his boring speeches about ninja life. Natsumi looked at her twin brother out of the corner of her eyes. She knew that what her sensei had said was a big lie. The last night, she had accidentally heard her parents in the hallway talking about Mizuki-sensei. The silver-haired academy teacher wasn't on some kind of long-term, top-secret mission. He was dead and it was Naruto, who had killed him for his treason. Quote. I hope you to do your duties with the utmost diligence and not to dishonor your village. From now on, you'll be placed in teams under the tutelage of your Junin sensei. Team 1. Iruka began. Both Sasuke and Naruto's fans were waiting who among them would end up one of their squad. There were many possibilities. Team 7 is Haruno Sakura, Sasuke Uchiha. Iruka winced as he heard the little banshee screaming in victory. Natsumi Uzumaki and Naruto under Junin Kakashi Hatake and assistants Kushina Uzumaki. Iruka paled as he was struck by a feeling of utter dread. He looked to see Naruto's cold stare. He swallowed a lump in his throat and continued shakily to declare the other teams. Naruto really wanted to slam his head into a table or something. I can't believe it, he thought. How come every time I try to keep my distance away from Uzumaki family, Minato always does something that sticks them with me? Sasuke was also clearly unhappy for being saddled with Sakura. He had no problem with his other two teammates, but that useless fangirl was the one he disliked. Sakura was cheering inside her mind. It was her dream to end up together with her Sasuke-kun. It was common knowledge that genin were put in 4-man cells or squad, consisting of 3 genin and a Junin sensei. However, her team constituted an exception. It was a 6-man cell, 4 genin and 2 Junin sensei. My love for Sasuke-kun is strong enough to make Hokage-sama bend rules for me, she thought. Another Sakura appeared in her mind. She looked exactly like Sakura, except she was in inverted colors, the gray body color with white lines. She had white eyes and kanji of inner Sakura on her large forehead. Pumping her fist in the air, inner Sakura shouted, "When love is eternal, even God bends its rules." Natsumi was grinning. She was happy. She was placed on the same team as her brother and mother. They were going to be together most of the time and she might be able to reconnect with her brother. It appeared that the only ones satisfied with the team were girls. Naruto suddenly stood up from his seat and started to walk toward the exit, shocking many students. "Where are you going, Naruto?" Iruka asked. Naruto was a real mystery, not just to him but everyone. Nobody could guess what was going through his mind. "It's obvious. I'm leaving," Naruto said, stopping in his tracks. "What about your team meeting? One of my sensei is Kakashi. You're already aware of his reputation. I'd rather use this time for training than sit here and do nothing." Naruto took a few steps toward the door. "And please, tell my teachers I'm outside, one of the academy training ground," he said before he walked out of the classroom and closed the door behind him. Within an hour, all the teams were picked up by their sensei with the exception of Team 7. They were sitting in the classroom and waiting for their own sensei to pick them up. "So I'm on the same team with a worthless fangirl and the 4th Hokage's children. At least they won't be a total waste of space like her." Sasuke glanced at Sakura before looking at Natsumi. He then thought about her brother. "And I've someone who can possibly challenge me. Let's just hope that this Hatake and the 4th's wife can teach me useful things, things that can help me against him." Meanwhile, with Natsumi, the girl was thinking about her current team. "Okay, I'm with Mom, Naruto Ni-chan, and Kakashi Oni-san. Thank you Dad, but," she looked at Sasuke and then Sakura, "but why did you put the class emo and his fangirl on my team? Sure, I can put up being with the Uchiha, but Sakura. I don't like her. Where are they?" Sakura cried, having gotten sick of waiting. She was just trying to vent some of her frustration from waiting as well as having Sasuke neglecting her the whole time. "Sakura, please keep your voice down," Natsumi said, rubbing her ears. Being Jinchuriki, she had heightened senses, which were sometimes pain in the to deal with. "Kakashi was my father's student. He's always late for at least 2 hours, and it is a common belief that Kakashi Hatake will be late for his own funeral." Both Sakura and Sasuke stared down at her as if she had grown a second head. A tick mark appeared on Natsumi's face. "It's true, but don't worry, my mom can handle him." As Natsumi finished the sentence, twin puff of smoke erupted in the room drawing their attention to it. When they cleared, both Junin appeared in front of them. The first one was Kushina Uzumaki, wearing the standard uniform, which consisted of a simple black suit with a standard flak jacket, black pant, strapped up sandals and leaf forehead protector on her head. Her long red hair was tied back into a ponytail with bangs both sides of her face. Their attention went toward the man standing next to her. This man was Kakashi Hatake. His hair was not white but had more of a silvery hue to it. He wore the regular attire of anyone in the regular forces of the Leaf. On his hands were short, metal-plated gloves. He wore his forehead protector on a simple navy blue band, tilted to the left to cover his left eye, and half of his face was covered by a navy blue mask. "Yo!" Kakashi greeted them with waving his hand. Sorry, we were late. We were lost on the road of life. Everyone's sweat dropped at his lame excuse. It was, of course, obvious that he was lying. Kakashi. Kushina shouted as she whacked him on the back of his head. You're the reason we're late. Sorry, Kushina senpai, Kakashi said, rubbing his head. She still hits hard. Kushina turned to her students and smiled. Anyway, Team 7. Where is Naruto-kun? She asked as she noticed the lack of their fourth student, her son. Naruto Ni-chan is outside, Natsumi answered her mother's question. Kushina nodded and said, let's go to get him. Both teachers put their hands on their future students' shoulders and disappeared in puffs of smoke. Ooh. They all appeared in the Ninja Academy training ground. Both Sasuke and Sakura felt a little dizzy, but it began to fade. Unlike her teammates, Natsumi was perfectly fine. She had already gotten used to her father's the Flying Thunder God Jutsu, which was more powerful and faster than the Body Flicker Jutsu. It's just temporary. You'll get over it soon, Kushina said. Sasuke and Sakura nodded as they already started to feel good. What the hell has happened here? Natsumi shouted, catching others' attention toward her. They quickly followed the line of her gaze and saw the condition of the training ground. It was torn in many places, filled with numerous small holes, and cut marks. Interesting, Kakashi said, watching Naruto practicing his kenjutsu katas. The blonde boy's movements were fluid and quick, making him look almost like he was practicing some deadly dance. He is good. I didn't know he is this good in kenjutsu, Kushina said in a slightly depressed tone. Kakashi couldn't help but feel sorry for her. Being close to the Hokage's family, he knew that the relationship between his sensei's family and Naruto was non-existent. Putting Kushina and Natsumi on the same team with Naruto, Minato was only trying to repair the relationship between them. He looked back at Naruto and couldn't help but think that the boy was the perfect example of a shinobi. He was intelligent, calculating, and secretive, but he was also dark and lonely. The primary qualities were good to have, but when connected to the last two, it could form a very dangerous combination. Best examples of that were Orochimaru and Itachi Uchiha. So what can I do for you? A voice caught everyone off guard. They quickly whirled around, looking back in the direction of the voice. They saw another Naruto standing on the top of a tree branch. What? Sakura shouted in disbelief. She turned back and saw the first Naruto still practicing his kenjutsu katas. A clone, Sasuke guessed. No, Sasuke. It's a genjutsu, Kakashi said. And a very good one. Correct, Naruto replied, as he jumped down from the tree and landed on the ground without making any sound. It's a genjutsu. With that said, other Naruto in the training grounds faded from the view. Natsumi asked, but when did you cast it? A good shinobi never reveals his secrets, Naruto told her. He looked at their faces. Both Natsumi and Sakura were looking at him with expressions of awe. Kushina was looking at him with a pride. Sasuke, he was staring at him with some jealousy as he realized just how strong he really was. He turned his head to Kakashi and saw no expression on his face. I really wanted to see his expression, Naruto though. Okay, you four, meet us on the roof in 10 minutes, Kakashi said. Both teachers used the body flicker jutsu to disappear in puffs of smokes. Without saying anything to the others, Naruto turned himself into a pitch-black smoke. The smoke dissolved into the air, leaving Sasuke, Natsumi, and Sakura alone in the training ground. See you guys up there, Natsumi said, as she ran toward the academy. After seeing this, Sasuke frowned, but he quickly decided to go up to the rooftop, where he left the ground with Sakura following behind him. Ooh. When Sasuke and Sakura arrived on the rooftop, they found Natsumi sitting on a stone bench. She was looking at the scene in front of her with an amused expression on her face. Kushina stood, holding up an orange book in her hand. In front of her was Kakashi, who was attempting to take the book away from Kushina. Finally, there was Naruto. He was leaning against the wall and reading his own book, ignoring everything that was going on around him. Please, Kushina-senpai, Kakashi said, kneeling in front of her. This is the first edition and signed the copy of Ika Ika Paradise. Kakashi. Kushina said, releasing a small amount of her killing intent. I'll burn you in your every book if I ever find you reading this trash in front of my children or students again. Got it? Kakashi gulped and gave a fearful nod. Good. She threw the book at him. She absolutely hated these perverted books her husband's teacher wrote. Kakashi quickly caught the book and put it in his flak jacket's pocket. He didn't want to make Kushina angry. The last time when he had made her angry, she had tied him up with a chakra-suppressing rope and left him hanging upside down on the tree. The thought of that time still made chills run up and down his spine. He still had nightmares about it. Sakura and Sasuke sweat dropped. Is he really a Junin? They thought before they sat down next to Natsumi. Seeing drama was over, Naruto snapped his book close and took a seat next to Sasuke. Kakashi and Kushina sat on the steps, which were opposite side of their students. I think we should get to know each other better first. Let's start with telling your name, what you like, what you dislike, and your dreams for the future and your hobbies, Kakashi said, looking at his future students. How about you go first, sensei, so we know what we have to say, Sakura said to Kakashi. Alright then, I'm Kakashi Hatake. I have no desire to tell you my likes and dislikes, my dreams for the future. As for my hobbies, I have lots of hobbies. The only thing we learned about him was his name, Sakura and Sasuke thought. Natsumi's sweat dropped. Seriously, Kakashi Oni-chan is too lazy to even tell about himself to others. As usual, Kakashi and his secretive attitude. Kushina knew that Kakashi didn't like people knowing too much about him. Kakashi Hatake, you are a very secretive person, aren't you? Naruto thought, carefully eyeing the silver-haired Junin. Well then, please allow me to tell them about you, Naruto said, catching everyone's attention on him. Listen carefully, because I'm not going to repeat myself. Kakashi Hatake is the son of Tsukumo Hatake, a genius renowned as White Fang. At the mention of his father's name, Kakashi winced slightly. Naruto continued, he is a genius, a prodigy and the best of his generation. His prodigious talent, skill, and Sharingan prowess has made him one of the village's most capable ninja and recognized throughout the ninja world. Sharingan, Sasuke thought. This one word made him give all his attention to the blonde's words. Naruto continued, he is also the last living student of the fourth Hokage. His hobby is reading. Ika Ika series. Kushina glared at Kakashi for this, making him look away from her. His dream is to fight his sensei. His favorite foods are salt-broiled sauri and miso soup with eggplant, while his least favorites are anything fried or sweet. He has completed 1,141 official missions in total, 197 D rank, 190 C rank, 414 B rank, 298 A rank, 42 S rank. Naruto finished. There was complete silence. No one said a word. Kushina was smiling inside her mind. Looks like he has done some research on you, Kakashi, she thought. Okay, Kakashi said. He hadn't expected something like this. There goes my plan, making me look mysterious in front of students, he thought. However, there was something bugging him. Where did you get all this information? He asked. Most of the things that Naruto said weren't entirely secret, but neither was it common knowledge. Naruto smirked. It's my hobby to gather information on every famous ninja, and you're quite famous in ninja world, copy Ninja Kakashi. The man who has copied over 1,000 jutsu. All three remaining students stared at Kakashi incredulously after hearing that he knew 1,000 jutsu with their jaw hanging open. T-1,000 jutsu. Sakura sputtered out, being the first one to snap out of the shock. Kakashi sighed and ignored her completely. It is truly a good hobby. It will certainly help you in future, he said to Naruto. Hey, Natsumi shouted, catching their attention toward her. She pointed her finger in Kakashi direction. Why didn't you tell me about this? She asked. She had always thought of him as a lazy man, but the thought of him being a genius never even crossed her mind. Well, Kakashi said, you never asked. Hearing this, Natsumi's face faltered. Kushina let out a small laugh, seeing the expression on her daughter's face. Anyway, it's my turn now, she said, gaining her all students' attention toward her. My name is Kushina Uzumaki. I love my husband and children. Naruto scoffed when she mentioned children. My likes are ramen, particularly salt ramen, and playing pranks on people. My dislikes are perverts, people who make fun of my hair, coffee, and anything bitter. My hobbies are pulling pranks, chatting with my friends, and cooking. As for my dream is. She glanced at Naruto. I want to see my complete family once again. Only Kakashi and Natsumi caught the hidden meaning behind Kushina's words, as they knew what she meant. Kakashi said, okay, Natsumi, you are next. My name is Natsumi Uzumaki. I like my family, my friends, ramen, and learning new jutsu. My hobbies are eating ramen, playing with my friends, and trying new justice. I dislike traitor, perverts, and anyone who harm my family or friends. My dream is to help my mother to achieve her dream. Hearing it, a small smile appeared on Kushina's face. And I want to become the first female Hokage. She cried out the final part, pumping his fist in the air. A huge sweat drop appeared on the back of Kakashi's head. She is a mini Kushina in the team. He pointed at Sakura, who was sitting next to Natsumi. You're next, Pinky, he said, which caused Sakura to scowl. My name is Sakura Haruno. My likes are, she glanced at Sasuke. My hobbies are playing trivia games, and she looked at Sasuke again with a slight blush on her face. My dislikes are Ino Pig along with Amy and her gang, my dreams for the future, Kya. She screamed in the excitement of what could happen between her and Sasuke in the future. Sasuke slightly moved away from her. He didn't want to stay too much closer to his number one fangirl. Can't she see I am not interested in her? He thought before shivering as he remembered his last night's dream. That wasn't a dream. That was a nightmare. Naruto just shook his head and ignored her. In short, her dream, hobby, and everything are linked to Sasuke, he thought. Natsumi also ignored her. Sakura likes Sasuke was generally known thing in the academy. TCH, typical Sakura and her obsession toward Sasuke. Kushina and Kakashi cursed their luck. They looked straight at each other and nodded, knowing what they had to do. Kakashi looked at Sasuke and said, okay then, you're next, broody over there. Sasuke only scowled slightly at Kakashi's nickname. My name is Uchiha Sasuke. I hate a lot of things, and I don't particularly like anything. What I have is not a dream, because I will make it a reality. I'm going to restore my clan, and kill a certain man. Could someone just tell this guy to lighten up a little? Rather than brooding and thinking darkly all the time, there are many things he can do, Natsumi thought. Makoto-chan, I was worried about this. It appears that loss of the Uchiha clan has made your son hung up on revenge. Kushina looked up at the sky, remembering her late friend, Sasuke's mother. If he keeps going down this path, it will only lead more sorrow for him and everyone around him. Let's hope we can save him before it's too late. Kakashi sighed, as he knew he and Kushina had a lot of work to do. Naruto sneered. Idiot. Revenge has blinded him from seeing the power gap between him and his brother. Itachi is a prodigy and genius. Running after him without any strategy and power will only kill him. There was only one person, whose thought was separate from the others, and it was Sakura. She had a dreamy look on her face. Sasuke-kun is so cool. And now, last but not least, Mr. Rookie of the Year, Kakashi said, looking directly at Naruto. Naruto began saying, my name is Naruto. Kakashi raised his eyebrow at his lack of using his last name. It's worse than I thought. Kushina looked down, so no one could see hurt expression on her face. He doesn't even consider himself as a part of the family, she thought. Naruto continued, I like and hate many things. My hobby. You already know it, I don't like repeating myself. My dream. I want to become the best. Kakashi looked at all his students one by one. Well, I have a mini Kushina, a fangirl, an Avenger, and a boy with deep family issues. He turned his head toward Kushina. She had a cheerful smile on her face to hide her hurt expression, and nodded. I think it's time to tell you about the test, Kushina said, surprising everyone, except Naruto. But Mom, Natsumi, you're not home, Kushina interrupted. Here, I am your sensei, so call me sensei or Kushina sensei. Understand? Why yes, Mo Kushina sensei, Natsumi said, quickly correcting her mistake. But what kind of test? We already had our test. Kakashi chuckled out loud. What's so funny, sensei? Sakura asked with an annoyed expression. Well, if I say this, I'm sure you four are going to be surprised, Kakashi said with an eye smile. Out of all the graduates this year, only a few are going to become real genin, and will stay as teams while remaining will be sent back to the academy. In other words, this test is going to be very hard with a dropout rate of 66%, Kushina explained. This means there is 34% chance of success. That's enough for me, Naruto said in a confident tone. Everyone turned toward him and looked him for a minute in silence. What? Naruto asked, annoyed. Nothing, Natsumi said. Anyway, meet us tomorrow at Training Ground 3 at 9 a.m. sharp, Kushina said. Kakashi said, oh, and a word of advice, don't eat breakfast, you'll just throw up. And don't be late, Kushina said. She glared at Kakashi. Which applies to you as well, Kakashi. Why yes, Kushina senpai. Kakashi nodded fearfully. Both Kakashi and Kushina said goodbye to their students and disappeared in twin puffs of smoke. Naruto stood up from his seat and began to walk. Suddenly, stopping dead in his tracks, he turned his head toward his teammates and said, take my advice, don't take Kakashi's advice. Before anyone asked him any question, Naruto had already gone from there. What does it mean? Sakura asked. Sasuke answered her, I don't know. Goodbye, Natsumi said, as she began to walk away from the group of two as well. Once Natsumi left, Sakura turned to Sasuke. Sasuke-kun, would you like to go out for dinner? She asked hopefully. No, Sasuke replied simply. He left the roof to go home and train. Sakura wasn't going to give up easily. She followed him to convince him to have dinner with her. Next day, in the Training Ground 3, Natsumi, Sakura and Sasuke were waiting for their both sensei and their last teammate to show up for their test for the last 15 minutes. At 9 am sharp, in a swirl of leaves, Kushina appeared in front of them. Good, you all are in time, but where are Kakashi and Naruto-kun? She asked, noticing their absence. Suddenly, there was a puff of smoke next to Kushina and Kakashi appeared there. Checking his clock, he sighed in relief. Yo, he said,